And we're off. Hi, everyone. Proving once again I do have hair, for those wondering. Uh, Plus, I had a haircut over the weekend, so and I'm showing it off or something like that. Enough about my hair. It's Monday, March 31st, 2025, joined again by Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel on day two of the NFL owners' meetings. As far as the Dolphins are concerned, that was probably the biggest of the 3 days because it was the day Mike McDaniel spoke to the media at the breakfast table, even though no breakfast was served. Perk, how are you?
I'm good, man. Speaking of hair, that I've told you before, the days are numbered here. This is coming off, man. I'm going back to the way I was for 28 straight years. I've had hair for 2 years. I'm getting sick of it. Buying shampoo, picking it out, all this mess. I'm sick of it. It's probably coming off this week. I'm going to be as bald as the day I was born.
Not that you asked for my opinion, but I like you when you have the bald look. Actually, I think that's your look.
I do, right? Yeah, that's my look, man. That's my look. This is just a fraud. I was escaping authorities, but now that's all over, I'm good. I'm going back to bald.
Yeah, and just like me, the beard, I've had the beard now since I got married, which was 20 years ago, last Wednesday, and it's like I don't look right without a beard. Do you think I'm ugly now with a beard? Imagine without the beard. It's just a big fat baby face. So that's why the beard has to stay. Anyway, I'm gonna guess the folks here are not have not tuned in to or clicked on YouTube or the audio podcast to hear us talk about facial hair or hairstyles about the Dolphins. And there's a lot to cover. So Perk, I'm gonna let you set the table. What should we discuss first?
We got to go with Tyreek, don't we? We've got to go. Zach Wilson isn't enticing enough. This is Tyreek.
Okay, I agree. And I wrote this when the news came out on Sunday about it was Jason Fitzgerald from overthecap.com, who does a great job with that website. It's a fabulous website. Yep. Great resource for all of us media folk. Yep. And he was doing a Q&A, was something along the lines, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but who could be a big name player traded on draft night. And he threw out Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek, of course, God forbid Tyreek resists the temptation, throws out the deuces sign. And of course, immediately it's like, why can you just not leave it alone? You're an NFL player. People are going to talk about you. And as I wrote on Miami Dolphins on SI.com, lots of stories, please check it out. That doesn't mean Tyreek wants out. It doesn't.
No, it does not. It does not. And Tyreek is a troll. We've said that. We know that. Tyreek revels in that role. And, on the one hand, you can say, why do fans and media take the bait? On the other hand, you could say, why is Tyreek acting such a fool? Like, this, and Poop, to me, this is something that I keep saying this. Eventually, the Dolphins need to talk to Tyreek. Like, this is just pissing off fans.
They can't.
Right. I mean, Mike McDaniel was asked more questions this morning about Tyreek than about Tua, the offense, the defense, and Bobby Slowick combined. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, why? Why is it like this? Why does this guy have to keep stirring the pot like this? And why do the Dolphins not say anything? I told you, I talked to players during the season after the Houston thing. What was it? I'm gonna go coach or whatever it was.
I'm gonna go coach, yeah.
Yeah, and so I asked Calais, I asked Eichenberg, I asked Mostert. And they were all like, Tyreek is just having a good time. He's just messing around. He's having fun. I didn't get a chance to ask Terron Armstead. But, look, on the one hand, I understand the players' sentiment that I'm not going to micromanage Tyreek. He's a grown man. If you guys want to get overly concerned about that, you can. On the other hand, it's just like, why can't he just leave this stuff alone and focus on the most important thing, which is winning football games? I take the bait, and it's part of my job, but I take the bait still. That doesn't justify giving Tyreek what he wants. But Tyreek, give the team what they want, which is some peace and quiet. some security, some peace of mind.
Good luck
That
with
to me
that.
is the big thing. I know that to me is the big thing here.
No, and I'm the same way. We have to write about it because it's relevant, and news is basically definition. News is what people are talking about, and people will talk about it.
Yep.
But I always make it a point to say this does not mean in the grand scheme of things, Tua wants to get traded, and then bringing it to today, Mike McDaniel basically said, and this, of course, I can certainly say at this certain moment with certainty he's going to be in the team moving forward. Like, okay. This is him not talking in absolutes, which makes perfect sense because if a team was like, listen, we'll give you a 1 and a 3 for Tyreek, of course the Dolphins would trade him. They're not getting any kind of offer for Tyreek because, again, he's a lot to deal with. He's a little bit older and he's not getting any younger, and Father Time's got a pretty good track record. He's got a tough contract to deal with. You're not going to get a whole lot for him. That's just the facts. So, and then it doesn't help. And I don't mean to take shots at fellow media outlets, that there are some certain outlets who will throw out all these sort of speculation. Let's go. Oh, it's going to be Tyreek, 5 possible destinations. Tyreek, let's see. Let's going to go to Dallas for, I don't know, 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
None of it is based in reality. It's just throwing stuff out there. And then unfortunately that gets circulated. And all of a sudden it's like people are actually analyzing what somebody threw out there, which again is not based in reality. It doesn't make sense. We've discussed it before. It doesn't make sense for the Dolphins to trade him. First of all, if they trade him before June 1st, his cap charge goes up higher. It's going to cost more on the cap than if he's on the roster. So that makes zero sense to do it before then. And you're going to trade him June 1st for 2026 draft picks. Again, the only way he gets traded is if it becomes so unbearable that it's like McDaniel or Chris Greer, like he's got to get out of here because he's hurting the team tangibly.
Yeah, and by the way, so when I was driving home today from the NFL owners meetings, Hockman and Crowder, the show, gave you a nice shout out for your Tyreek Hill story, for the way that you broke. Yes, that's right. For the way that you broke down the situation with Tyreek's salary. And if you part with him, it's very punitive. So congrats to you on that. Here's the other thing. I asked Mike McDaniel today specifically about Tyreek being voted a team captain. Players vote on team captains. I know what else is Mike going to say, but Mike said he would be pumped if Tyreek was voted a team captain, because he said it would symbolize that players have gotten past kind of, the stuff that happened last year. And basically he was saying that, that he thinks on a separate question, that was that question. On a separate question, he was asked, do you have reason to think Tyreek will change? And Mike McDaniel said, yes. There's been some behind the scenes conversations with Tyreek, and we spend a lot of time with Tyreek, and Tyreek has been up here at the facility. And again, what else is he going to say? Well, he could say, we hope that Tyreek is going to be better. We don't have any assurances that Tyreek is going to be better.
When has Mike McDaniel ever swam in those waters? Let's be honest.
No, I know. That's un-Mike McDaniel-like, but changes, it's time for change, right? On a few levels. And so it would be nice to see Mike McDaniel be neutral instead of being all in for the player. Yeah, I think Tyreek is going to change, and I think he's going to be better. Why not just be neutral and say, we hope that Tyreek is going to grow up. We hope that Tyreek is going to be better. Look, you're not going to lower Tyreek's trade value. Tyreek is lowering his own trade value with these antics. So Mike being neutral, Mike being honest won't change anything. I just think it would be nice to see some honesty about this situation. You're not ripping Tyreek in any way, shape, or form. It's just not being so over the top nice and not being, look, if you
not
think.
His MO, though. It's not his MO.
No, it's not. But Poop, it's time for change, right? Like if you're not going to change now, when are you ever going to change? And I know the answer might be Mike McDaniel will never change. But look, part of this is Mike McDaniel has treated a lot of these people as grown men, and they have not returned the favor. He's treated them respectfully, and they have not returned the favor. And, I'm kind of looking at Tyreek on this thing, that you constantly do this trolling, which Mike McDaniel is going to have to answer for. Mike McDaniel is probably sick of this stuff. And Tyreek continues to think of Tyreek, not the fans, not the team, not the coach,
Right.
but he thinks of Tyreek. And I think that this is innocent. Like, Tyreek, this is his idea of fun. And that's fine, but there's other people involved. So Mike McDaniel, just be neutral. Don't be so over the top, always in favor of the players and always in favor of Tyreek. I'm not even saying be a jerk or be a disciplinarian. Just be neutral at least.
Okay. And here's my suggestion. If Tyreek, we really wanted to prove that he's a change guy, that he's going to be a leader, that he deserves to be a captain, would it be so hard? And I don't want to spend too much time on Tyreek because I know a lot of the fans are like over here with him.
Yeah.
For those listening on the audio podcast, I'm motioning my hand over my head as in fed up. Would it have been such a stretch for Tyreek when Jason Fitzgerald mentioned Tyreek Hill as possibly getting traded off that draft night, for Tyreek to say, I don't want that.
Right.
I'm 100% committed to the Dolphins and we're going to kick some ass next year.
Yeah.
Would that really have killed him to do that?
Nope.
Okay. Terron Armstead, topic number 2.
Yes.
Basically, the quick summation of what Mike McDaniel said is status quo from what he said at the Combine, which is he's proceeding under the assumption Dolphins are not going to have Tyreek Hill. Then he kind of threw in an idea of like part of the discussion is going to be his role with the team, halfway suggesting he wouldn't be the starter, to which I say there's no way in hell Terron Armstead comes back accepting to be a backup when he has started every single game he's played since his rookie season, which was 12 years ago.
Yeah, this was something else that I asked Mike about Terron and Calais. And do you have, and would Terron return as a starter? He answered the Terron Calais stuff, and then I had to follow up with, so would Terron return as a starter? And Mike kind of gave a circular answer about,
hold on, Mike. Whoa, Mike gave a circular answer? No way. No.
Right. That's like saying Mike gave a long answer, right? It's like, where's the news there? Mm-hmm. But he said basically that Terron, we all know that Terron has been challenged physically recently, and we don't know that, Terron's body could make it through a whole year. And he kind of left it at that.
Which is something, by the way, I'm sorry to cut you off, but which is something I've never heard Mike McDaniel say before.
There you go. That's being neutral, right? Like with Tyreek, it's not, we know Terron's going to be working and he'll do it. It's like, well, we really don't know. And so, what I glean from that is they're hoping Terron comes back as a reserve. Yeah, if he comes back, because they don't want to count on him. Physically, I don't think that they think he can make it. I don't know that Terron thinks he can make it, through 17 games. So, I took that as Mike McDaniel saying, Terron would have to come back as a reserve. We want to get a look at Patrick Paul.
Yeah, and then if you're coaching those two guys, at what point would Mike McDaniel lose his patience and see there's a clear difference between the two? Because there is, unless Patrick Paul makes a massive jump and not go, Terron, get back in the starting lineup, which would be counterproductive to developing Patrick Paul, which has to be, even though Dolphins want to win, which has to be part of the agenda, even however low it is, but has to be part of the agenda for 2025. You have got to find out what you got in this dude. So my take is, I have a hard time seeing him coming back in 2025. Calais Campbell, again, if you read between the lines, sure sounds like he's coming back. Question is, with who? And we know the Dolphins may not be the most ideal destination in terms of level of legitimacy as a Super Bowl contender when you look at the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep, correct. And I think this is a situation of Mike is just really hopeful that that Calais chooses them. But yeah, it sounds like Calais is definitely going to play in 2025. But for the Dolphins, I don't know if that's going to be the choice. Here's what was interesting is that Mike went into a thing about, there's a couple of different scenarios that could play out at defensive tackle. And I didn't know if that meant drafting one in the first or second rounds, or if they've got their eye on a trade target, or if they've got their eye on a free agent. I have not looked. I don't think there's a whole lot of significant free agent help out there. Yeah, just off the top of my head, I've got to go back and look at a list.
Jordan Phillips is available.
Jordan Phillips and Raekwon Davis available.
Again, hold on. Let me address this because it needs to be mentioned because other people have mentioned his situation. He was released by the Colts with a non-football illness designation. No details given. However, he began last training camp on NFI, and when he came back, he told reporters he was dealing with a blood pressure situation. So it's not a far stretch to think that maybe this is surfacing again. And if it is, we're talking two episodes, like within a year. Now it becomes, is this going to be an issue moving forward? Go ahead.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. No, you're correct. You're 100% correct. But that's, Mike McDaniel did say that, leading us to think that they've got a backup plan, which is a good thing. I'm not sure we can say that about every position on the offensive line, but it seems like on the
Liam Schott. Sorry.
It is. He'll be discussed soon, I'm sure. But yeah, it sounds like on the defensive line, Mike McDaniel they've got something cooking if Calais does not work out.
One would hope, and even if they do have something cooking, going to be hard to be better than what Calais Campbell was because, again, if you put stock in Pro Football Focus grades, he was a number 6 ranked interior defensive lineman in 2024, ahead of team MVP Zach Sealer. And in terms of run defense, he was number 1, all interior defensive lineman in the NFL. Again, Pro Football Focus is not the end all be all, but it's one measure. And your eyeballs, your eyeballs told us, damn, that dude was good.
Yep.
So,
yep. And you don't just need a starter at D tackle. You need some depth also. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what Mike McDaniel is cooking up. I guess in a couple of months or in a few months.
Yeah, and the question is, we don't know, what's going to be the greater pull for Campbell. He spent 3 years with the Ravens,
right?
20 to 22. I wrote about this. It's actually funny. He was 3 years with the Ravens. 20 through 22, Lamar Jackson was MVP in 2019, MVP in 2023, runner-up for MVP in 2024. Those 3 years. So maybe Calais brings out the worst in Lamar Jackson. Or maybe Lamar Jackson saying, no, Campbell, stay away. I kid.
Tweet it.
Yeah. Question is, what's going to be the bigger pull for him? The ties he has with Baltimore, which is a team, I'm going to be honest, closer to the Super Bowl than the Dolphins. Maybe he really thoroughly enjoyed his season last year with Miami, where he played his college football, even though he's from Colorado. So we shall see. Next topic, Zach Wilson, I guess. Sure. Look, Mike McDaniel saying that this was the guy we targeted. It wasn't like just by accident. I mean, it's kind of duh. And then he talked about how much he scouted him in 2021 when he was with the 49ers and they had the 3rd overall pick.
Yep.
By way of a trade with the Dolphins, by the way.
Yep.
Zach Wilson wound up going 2nd out of BYU to the New York Jets. The hope is that he has a career revival like Sam Darnold had to a certain degree last year with Minnesota, like Baker Mayfield, who didn't succeed to a very high level in Cleveland, certainly a much higher level than Wilson ever did with the Jets. But what he had to say about Zach Wilson, and make perfect sense. It doesn't mean he's going to pan out, but the logic is sound. If Mike McDaniel has the conviction, I see what this guy has to work with, I can bring out the best of him. He needs a better environment for a quarterback like we brought for Tua, and see what happened with Tua and the way his game took off. Maybe we can do that for Zach Wilson. I have zero issue approaching it from that standpoint.
That is the exact standpoint that Mike McDaniel emphasized, and he kept saying not to compare the two. He said it like 3 times. This is not a comparison. I'm not comparing these guys. But then he said, the way Tua found himself, we think the same thing can happen with Zach Wilson. And so, yes, that's what a lot of us suspected was a big part of signing Zach, is that they think that they get him out of that environment, they get him in this environment, they coach him up, they put him in this system, and big things could happen. I have no problem with that thinking. My problem would be with, this is a guy that, has not had much success in this league. And if Tua gets injured and Greer and McDaniel know their situation better than we do, are you sure that you can put the operation in this guy's hands as opposed to Joe Flacco or Marcus Mariota or, Ryan Tannehill, somebody who has won games in this league, somebody who ideally has won a playoff game in this league, because that's your goal. And Tua gets hurt in September and December. So you need to have somebody to get you off at a good start and bring it home. And I don't know if Zach Wilson is that guy. Hopefully we don't have to find out, because hopefully Tua stays healthy. But wow, it's a big roll of the dice. Mike McDaniel is betting on himself, and that's the way you want to go down if you go down.
That's actually interesting. You just mentioned something I hadn't never realized that before, because you mentioned he gets hurt in September and December, and it's like I can't remember him ever being injured in October or November.
No, it's September and December.
I know. It's very interesting. But again, sometimes you got to swing big to hit big.
Yep.
I.e. the Vikings last year, they did that. Sometimes it doesn't work. Dolphins, Josh Rosen, 2019. Right. And to this day, I still refuse to rag on the Dolphins, because saying that trade sucked because Josh Rosen didn't get it done, that's playing the results. It's really easy to do after the fact.
Okay, that was a second rounder, right? They traded him for a
2-5. A 2-5.
2-5, okay.
And in retrospect, it's very easy to say. But again, they were giving it a shot. Just like the Cleveland Browns owner, Jimmy Haslam, on Monday, talking about regretting the Deshaun Watson trade. Yeah, and it wasn't so much the trade compensation was over the top, number one, but even more egregious, obviously, was the stupid contract they gave him. But anyway, the point being, sometimes you got to swing big, and if you swing big, unless you're using a torpedo bat, and then it's a dinger right there. So
that's right.
Just follow baseball.
That's right. Unless you're Aaron Judge, and you don't need.
There you go. By the way, I have one major burning question, for baseball, as a little bit baseball side note as we begin the season. The one burning question in baseball is who are going to be the starting pitchers for the Yankees and the Dodgers in Game 1 of the World Series. To me, that's a burning question in baseball this year. Okay, anyway.
Tani. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't think he started pitching yet.
No, he's supposed to start next month. But if there's a World Series between the Yankees and Dodgers, he's on the mound for Game 1, even if he has a torn rotator cuff. They're not turning down those TV ratings.
But yeah, I know, right? One would hope.
Liam Eichenberg.
Liam Eichenberg.
McDaniel.
The what? Oh, the Nick Sirianni thing. I think Mike McDaniel was asking, I think it may have been you who asked him about any kind of mandate from Stephen Ross. And then he referenced Nick Sirianni, how he was under the hot seat last year in Philadelphia. And he was when they got off the 2-2 start after flaming out bad in 2023. If you remember, they were 10-1 in 2023. They were bad. They were lucky 10-1. And then it just went south bad. Got bounced in the first round of the playoffs by the Buccaneers. And they start off 2-2. And imagine that Philly fans were being unruly. Imagine that, right?
Imagine that, right? Nicest fans in the world. Come on.
No, and then they beat Cleveland like in a squeaker, and then he's giving it to the fans as he's walking off the field, which didn't play well apparently with the front office, and then went on a roll, won 9 more straight, and on their way to the Super Bowl. So McDaniel referenced, maybe I'm on the hot seat like Nick Sirianni last year. Truth is, again, the track record with McDaniel is winning record playoffs, and they had the bad year last year.
Yep.
I don't know that there's a major correlation between Nick Sirianni other than Nick Sirianni was on the hot seat last year.
Yeah, I understood his point, and that was the point. That was the whole point, is that things can change very quickly.
Yeah, correct.
And so I buy that. I buy the comparison from that standpoint that, look, Nick Sirianni, fans wanted this dude out the door. And he goes on to win a Super Bowl. And so that's the comparison. But look, I wanted to know from McDaniel, what did Steve Ross give you any sort of a mandate, any sort of a requirement? Did he say you've got to make the playoffs? Did he say you've got to win 10 games, win a playoff game? And McDaniel said, no, that would have been a very unique conversation. And I'm sure that there's probably been very few owners in the history of the NFL that give their coach an explicit thing like that. It's, nobody wants to be tied down to specifics.
Correct.
So, right. So I understand that. But, I just wanted to get a gauge of where Mike McDaniel is with this thing. He's very aware. He is hyper aware that his butt is on the line here. But I just wanted a sense of how secure are you? How nervous are you? I didn't get a good sense of that at all. Let me just say that I didn't get a good sense of that at all. But I don't think that he's got false security. I think he's very aware of his situation and that fans are unhappy. Yeah, I do. I really do think that he's very aware that fans are unhappy. I just don't know. I think he's aware of how fans feel. I don't know how Steve Ross feels. And I was trying to get an indication of that from McDaniel, but Mike McDaniel is way smarter than to give up some information like that. But I tried.
It was a very, very good try. No, and McDaniel says something also all the time that you don't hear necessarily a lot of other coaches say, is that, I'm fortunate to be in this job and I understand that, it can be taken away very quickly. So I give him props for that. It's not like he doesn't come across high and mighty of like, how dare or anybody thinks my job is in jeopardy. But ultimately, again, it has seen. I'm asked this question all the time. Like, how many wins is it going to take? Does he have to make the playoffs? And to me, you can't answer it like that because that completely eliminates context or nuance.
Right.
Like, if they have a rash of injuries, Dolphins never know, right? But if they have a rash injury at the end of the year and they go from being, 11-4 to 11-6, no, I'm using the numbers from 2 years ago. But you get my drift that if they make the playoffs, mostly as anybody would understand because of injuries, again, you can't have that black and white, even though I don't like necessarily using injuries all the time, but they also can be a factor. Before we move on to actually Tua before Liam, because I know there are a lot of fans who dig this. 4 games now, the Dolphins can use their throwbacks if they want to.
Yeah, that's right.
Used them twice last year. Didn't work out well. They lost at home against Buffalo. They lost on the road against Green Bay with the aqua throwback jersey and the white aqua throwback jersey. With Tua, there were two different issues. Number one was like, what confidence does he have that he's going to be able to keep out of harm's way? There was nothing in that answer that wasn't completely logic. That he missed 6.5 games. He understands what he felt. He knows what it felt like. He's going to be smarter. And then the other one was the status of the hip, which basically is a non-issue for those who were potentially concerned about that. I think that's the first time that was not addressed at the combine. So it was good to get that on the record. That according to Mike McDaniel, there is no issue with the hip.
Yep, and McDaniel stressed it's a soft tissue injury. It's not related to the injury that he had in college. So he's told us that before. He reiterated it again today. I thought one of the big things with Tua, I wanted to ask specifically, have you, Mike McDaniel, talked to Tua about staying healthy and staying out of harm's way? Because when Chris Greer brought it up at the season-ending press conference, it seemed as though Greer might have talked to Tua about it, maybe, but I'm not sure that Mike McDaniel specifically talked to Tua about it. And Greer was kind of talking in tones of, well, Tua knows. He never said, I told Tua, or we sat down and talked with Tua. And I know that this is maybe not that important to some fans, but to me, I like to get these things straight when jobs are on the line, and it's a situation like this. Back in 2022, maybe it's not that important to know, Tua knows and I told him. But now it's happened twice in 3 years. And both incidents last year, Chris Greer says it's because Tua got a little careless running the ball. So now, right, I want to know, have you guys told Tua specifically and who told them and what was said? And I know we're not going to get every detail. Well, we sat in his office at Mike McDaniel's office at 2:00 last Friday. I know that. I just want to know, yes, we told him in those specific terms, or yeah, we just kind of talked about it. I could tell from Tua's body language he felt bad. I just want to know something like that, because Tyreek, I don't know that anybody has said anything to Tyreek. I haven't had. I've been told that people have talked to Tyreek. I don't see any changes. And so if Tua does not slide next year, I want to know, is Tua being hard-headed? Is he ignoring you guys? Is this his competitiveness? Like, I thought you talked to him specifically about this. So that's kind of why I want to kind of nail it down. Have you talked specifically to Tua about this?
Yeah, but here's the thing, Perk. You don't think that conversation already took place last year, especially after what happened against the Bills in week 2? When he came back and then he throws a pick against the Rams and tries to go down and tackle the guys at the knees.
Yep.
And then he does it again. And then he has a press conference with us saying, I'll know better next time. And then he goes out and he does it again against Houston, something like that. Right. I think at some point it's like, I think, intellectually he understands it. Then you get in the heat of the game where, pressure's coming at him. He's rolling out, scrambling out of the pocket. And then it's not registering it like, oh, I got to protect myself. So I don't know. Hope it becomes instinctive, but
do you think that they've talked to Tua about this as much as they've talked to, as specifically as they've talked to Tyreek about social media trolling?
Oh, I think they've done it way more with Tua than they have with Tyreek.
I would think so also, because the Tua thing is way more important, right? I mean, we're talking about the on-field product as opposed to some. Well, I do think that. I mean,
no, Perk, no, because the thought that ran into my head is they were like, Tyreek, you got to lay off social media, and Tyreek went like,
right, yeah, exactly.
Or like this, talk to the hand.
Exactly. I'm out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that conversation will go whole. Anywhere. I would like to think at some point they would like, Tyreek, maybe you think it might be an idea to tone it down a little bit. Don't know how well that goes. Let's move on to your favorite topic. I know you've been dying to talk about this, and the answer was very good. Mike McDaniel saying if Liam Eichenberg is going to be in the starting lineup in 2025, there's a caveat coming. Dolphin fans, don't go crazy right now. He will have to be the best version of himself he's ever been. Which again, yeah, if Liam Eichenberg takes a big jump and becomes a starting caliber NFL guard, there's no reason to not put him in the lineup just because of past experiences and past trauma.
Yep, correct. And I think that one of the things that Mike McDaniel said was, the process is ongoing, that there's a draft and there's free agency. So clearly, Liam is not promised a spot on the 53. Well, I shouldn't say clearly. It sounds as though Liam is not promised a spot on the 53, that he's still got to earn that. And so even though he's a second round pick, that, they're not, the scholarship is over pretty much. But, McDaniel did say that, look, we welcome him back. Liam did a lot of things for us, and he mentioned the versatility and the sacrifice, which I took to mean playing different positions. Like you said, they never let him get settled on one position. So it sounded like McDaniel was acknowledging that. And, the strain. And so, look, as I think we both said, Liam busts his ass. It's not like he's out there loafing. He's just not a Pro Bowl caliber player. But again, I'm not going to say anything else.
You're speechless now, aren't you?
Right? Yes, exactly. But I think that McDaniel understands the situation that Liam is in. I don't know that he understands what the fans think of Liam. I think maybe the media relations department tells Mike McDaniel that, but I don't think Mike McDaniel is on social media going, ooh, they don't like Liam. I don't think he looked at the comments from their tweet that we have re-signed Liam. I think that Mike is made aware of that kind of stuff. But for at least he does say that Liam has got to improve and all that kind of stuff. Again, it's not the positive over the top. Well, we're happy with Liam and he works hard. At least there was acknowledgement that Liam must improve. That's a step in the right direction for Mr. Positive Mike McDaniel.
I would have a suggestion for the Dolphins. Suppose you put Liam Eichenberg at one spot, starting in OTAs, and leave him the hell at one spot. See how that looks. And I understand that some Dolphin fans immediately are going to be like, won't matter, he's going to suck wherever.
Right.
Okay, let's give it a shot anyway. What's the worst that happens? I would be surprised as I stand here today if he were one of the starting guards in 2025. But if he is and it's on merit, what?
Well, let me interrupt real quickly. I hope they have a good plan for James Daniels. We saw last year with OBJ, he was slow to come back from his injury. We saw last year with Jalen Phillips, once he came back, there was another injury. I hope Liam Eichenberg is not the backup plan. That's right, because what I've said, Poop, is that what I wrote last week is that the Dolphins said they want to invest in offensive line. Maybe they should double down. And to me, doubling down would be all of your backups are of the Kendall Lamb, Isaiah Wynn caliber, that they could start 6 or 8 games and you would go, okay, that's fine. Once people think that Liam is a sprained ankle away from being a starter again, a multi-week starter, it kind of makes you lose faith in the Dolphins offseason plan, right? That I thought you were going to invest in offensive line, and now James Daniels is slow to come back, or this rookie sprained his ankle, and now you've got Liam out here starting for 3 weeks again. Like, I don't think that fans would lose faith very quickly. So I hope that there's a better backup plan than Liam Eichenberg. I hope, you re-sign Isaiah Wynn or something. I just think if the fans see Liam out there, they lose all. It just brings all the air goes out of the balloon.
Yeah, but you can't make decisions based on what the fans want or don't want.
I know.
But basically, based on what you're saying, is you don't want him on the roster, period.
Well, I'm saying it's a tough sell to the fans that you're going to invest in the offensive line, and then you have Liam out there, and then I think it just leads to other questions of, wow, Zach Wilson, can we trust him on backup quarterback? Like, we couldn't trust him on offensive. I just think it leads to, and I know, look, eventually the record. If you're 9-3 and Liam is starting, who cares, right?
Right.
But
here's the thing. Sorry, Perk, but how can you not look at it as improvement if you've made moves to where Liam goes from a starter to now being a backup, and now you have a backup with a ton of starting experience? You're really gonna find? You think it's that easy to find a backup offensive lineman who would be clearly superior to Liam Eichenberg, who's got 52 career starts? I don't.
No. Listen, I am a Liam fan. Like, I take up for Liam.
Sure, you do.
But I'm saying fan perception, which is not going to lose you any games. But if you're 500 and he's out there, starting for you 3 games, it's going to get nasty. And maybe Steve Ross pays attention to some of the chatter. I don't know, but I'm just saying that I would think that Isaiah Wynn, Kendall Lamb would be the floor for your backups if you're really going to invest in offensive line. If you come back with the same caliber of guys, have you really invested? You got James Daniels, you got a rookie, you got Patrick Paul, who was here last year, Aaron Brewer, who was here last year, Austin Jackson, who was here last year, I don't know, Andrew Meyer, who was here last year, Keon Smith, who was here last year. Like, what kind of investment is that in the offensive line? That's what I'm saying. Like, are you going to invest? Are you going to double down? Or are you going to kind of keep things, you're just going to wave in James Daniels and tell people that you've invested? And a rookie. Well,
if you get James Daniels and a rookie starting caliber guard, whether it be a converted tackle or what, and not in the first round,
that's your investment. Patrick Paul's coming back, Brewer's coming back, Jackson's coming back, Liam's coming back.
you want like to scrap everybody who was ever there. I mean, part of the rehabilitation of the offensive line is also Austin Jackson returning to form because he was on his way to having a good year last year. It's Patrick Paul taking the step, and this is unfortunately this is a big iffy, but this is where we are, taking the big step and becoming the player, the prospect that the Dolphins thought they got when they took him in the second round. That's also part of the investment in the offensive line. And the offensive line wasn't bad last year until Austin Jackson went out with a knee issue. And then at the same time, people forget this, at the same time, this is when Terron started having his knee problems as well.
And Alec Ingold started having injuries. So your run game really went down. Yeah. I'm just saying, Poop, if you're going to look, I say when you talk offensive line problems, it's really the guards. And it sounds wimpy to say, well, our guards were weak. You were good at center, left tackle, and right tackle. You're talking
not
about
against
the guards.
Houston, they weren't. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I said not against Houston, they weren't.
Oh, no, not again. Well, you had Jackson Carman out there. I mean,
he's back, by the way.
Who is back? Who is, again, have you invested in the offensive line, really? That's what I'm saying here. So really, the offensive line investment, you needed 2 new guards. So you got James Daniels, and you're going to get a draftee. So that's the investment? That's
Maybe.
What I'm saying. Like, you've lost Kendall Lamb, you've lost Armstead, and this is your investment? You bring Liam back, and you bring Keon Smith and Andrew Meyer? Like, that's your investment? Are you going to bring Isaiah Wynn back at least? Like, what's the investment here? That's my question.
Yeah, I thought from the start, to me, Isaiah Wynn was a no-brainer re-signing, but that hasn't happened. Maybe he's still having issues with, what was it, the quad or
the knee? At one point, they mentioned a knee, and then I think Isaiah shot the knee down and said, no, it's just the quad, as I recall, unless I'm getting him confused with somebody else.
Okay. Let's also not forget that Dolphins very often speak of internal improvement.
Yes.
And maybe this is what they're counting on. They're counting on Andrew Meyer. They obviously loved Andrew Meyer because they kept him on the roster the entire year, even though it was inactive every game.
Yep.
Maybe they're counting on Jackson Carman, who they got from the start after picking him up midway through last year. Maybe they're counting on a big
Keon Smith.
Well, we keep being told that teams were calling to ask about in a trade.
That's
So. Any final words?
Look, they do have a lot of reserve tackles, right? Larry Borum, Keon Smith, Jackson Carman.
Carman's a guard. Carman's much better. In fact, that was a point that Chris Greer was making at the end of the season. Like, hell, we even had to throw Jackson Carman there at tackle.
Yep. Ryan Hayes. I know. They've got a lot of tackles. Yeah, that's all. that was my only point. That was my point.
Trying to think. Did we miss anything? Any topic?
No, I think that was it for today at the meetings. I think that it was a productive. It was a productive owners meetings. We got some good stuff from Mike McDaniel, I thought.
Yep, and then we're going to get some of the rules being voted on, I guess, the next couple of days, and whatever announcements they announce, like the international global markets. Nothing new for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Who have 6 different countries where they have global marketing rights, including Spain, of course. Yeah. Mike McDaniel was asked question from a Washington reporter, about Dan Quinn's job, because they worked together at one point in Atlanta, and also whether are the Commanders your opponent for the Spain game, and McDaniel basically squirmed his way out of it, saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to be saying. So
I don't know what I can say or what I can't say.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of the Washington reporters are buzzing that it's going to be Dolphins and Commanders in Madrid. So.
Correct. I heard that with the combine, and then there's now another wave that it's going to be the Bengals. So Washington or Cincinnati against the Dolphins. Anyway, that's for down the line. This was for today. He is Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Catch his fine work at sunsentinel.com. Perk, do we have a Dolphins deep dive this week?
We will probably Thursday, but keep track of us on social media. We will let you know for sure.
Sounds good. Catch him on social media at Chris Perk. You see my Twitter and my Twitter X handle there at Poupar NFL. Catch my fine written work and that of my staff at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Please like, subscribe. Still not at 15,000 yet. If I were at 15,000, maybe I'd have worn a Dolphins hat or a Dolphins jersey today. But no, let's get there, please. Much appreciate the support anyway. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your Monday.